Hi everyone, it's Jai452 back again inside the land of cosplay, rummaging around and seeing what we can find on Inside Cosplay. Joining me this week is my very special guest, Voltono.
Hi.
It's not right, is it?
No, it's okay. It's Voltarius 89.
Voltarius. Now, oddly enough, Voltono is the name of a character that we have in a Dragonlance session on iGame.
Oh, okay.
So, there you go. iGame got a sneaky little plug in at the beginning there. Okay, so Voltarius, I am going to kick off this interview by asking you, when did you first start cosplaying?
I started cosplaying, about 4 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
My first con was MegaCon in Orlando, Florida.
Awesome. Do you remember what your first cosplay was?
Yeah, my first cosplay was Darius from League of Legends and Colossal Titan from Attack on Titan.
Nice. So, who or what inspired you to get into cosplay?
I was doing a makeup for stage and theater class, and one of my friends, now friends, she kept talking about going to the con, and I was like, I want to go. So I kind of basically showed up at her house and was like, pick a thing for me to make. And we picked Darius, I made it, and went to the con with them.
So does she still cosplay to this day?
On and off, she now does a lot of vendoring, because she has her own little vendor company. So she'll cosplay like at the vendor booth, so we still get to see each other a lot.
Awesome. You mentioned you've got a background in the theatre, so I'm assuming that you've got a background in acting as well.
A little bit. Like, I've done like acting classes, but I've never done like any stage performances or anything like that.
Okay. So my next question kind of centres both around cosplay and the acting side.
Mm-hmm.
So, to date, what has been the most challenging cosplay that you have ever done, both from the making of the costume and the acting side? Because, believe it or not, there's a teeny little bit of acting involved in cosplay, whether that be how a character talks, how they pose, how they might interact with general people, or even how they move. So let's talk about the acting side first. So from an acting standpoint today, what character has been the most challenging for you?
That's probably going to be Professor Umbridge.
Okay. Any particular reason why?
Mainly because that was my first time doing like a drag cosplay,
Mm-hmm.
and the first time I wore it, I was just super nervous about everything, because Umbridge is hated. Everyone hates Umbridge. So I wasn't expecting the laughter I got from it, because I'm like a almost 7 foot tall Umbridge when I'm in heels. So everyone laughs at that, but I did get like 2 people who just started screaming at me in the middle of the con, and I'm just like, what do I do? After doing her more, I now can like handle the people who scream at me, because then I just like quote some line from the movie, or I get like really snarky and be like, don't yell at the High Inquisitor. Just something like stupid from the movie that like gets them to be like, what? So when you like kind of do that, and then you could step into the character's like attitude,
Mm-hmm.
it helps it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same question again, but from the making of a costume. So which one has been the most challenging for you to date? In fact, let me expand upon that just a tiny little bit, just to include something else.
Okay.
So the making of the costume, as well as possibly the wearing of the costume. Okay, so which one's been the most challenging from that perspective?
That is probably going to be Reinhardt.
Okay.
Like, he was a pain. Mainly because I decided to think that he was going to be really easy to make. and was like, the con's in like 2 weeks, it's okay, oh, the con's in a week. Crap. So I literally stayed up for 4 days straight, worked for 127 hours straight, making this costume. Still didn't get it like 100% finished, and then went to the con. That didn't do that many test fits, and wearing platform boots is way different than wearing heels. So I kind of fell a couple times in the full costume, which was entertaining.
I hope you didn't seriously hurt yourself.
No, that time I didn't hurt myself. Like, I had a friend who was May, who was helping as my handler, so, like, I kind of would fall, she'd help me, or I'd fall on her. It was entertaining.
Kind of interesting that you mentioned that, because I thought you were going to go with Umbridge again for wearing the heels. Because I know for a fact that it's not easy to walk around in heels.
It's not. With Umbridge, I started out with like 3-inch heels.
Mm-hmm.
But I had actually worn those same heels prior to doing Umbridge at Dragon Con when I did like a Battle Bunny Darius type thing. So the heels weren't that bad. I kind of had this thing ever since I was little where I'd kind of walk on like the heels of my feet. Because I had a huge obsession with dinosaurs and like gargoyles, so I'd always walk on like the toes of my feet no matter what.
Oh.
So the heels aren't like a huge thing, because now I just walk around in like 5-inch heels anytime I have to wear like a drag.
Mm-hmm.
So those weren't that bad.
So there you go, guys. That's the secret. Walk around on the base of your like feet. So it's like the like pretend my fingers are my toes for the moment. And there's that little bit that connects, and then you just lift up the rest of your foot and walk around on that. It's difficult to begin with, it really is, but you'll get the hang of it. And then you can wear heels. Kind of funny that you should mention gargoyles, because I found out something about one of the voice actors earlier today, from that show / movie, because there was a movie, or it was a directed, like, VHS movie. Oh,
yeah, it was a
God.
VHS movie that came with a toy.
I'm showing my age there.
I have the VHS and the toy somewhere.
I remember VHSs. I'm old.
Me too.
And so there you go, guys. There is, if you ever do a gargoyle, because, like, I have a cosplay friend who does Demona, and she looks absolutely fabulous, and she knows who she is, so if she's watching this, you know who you are. But she does look absolutely fabulous and amazing as Demona. I'll see if I can call up her picture for you later and show you it. And she's going to get all embarrassed if she has watched this. But absolutely amazing. Okay, so my next question for you is very similar to the last. In your opinion, what is the most difficult cosplay thing, aka creature, or character to cosplay as, both from the making of the cosplay and the acting, but in regards to both yourself and others? So let's start with yourself on what you think is the most difficult character or thing to cosplay as, something that you would maybe look at and go, I'm not quite sure either how I would either A, act it, or B, make the costume. So what would be something that you would just kind of go, I don't know.
Like that I've done, or that I'm considering?
Something that you would possibly would have considered, but has been like, I don't know about that, so I'll put it on the back burner till I learn a little bit more about how to do that style, or how to approach it.
I got asked to do a Final Fantasy Online character, because I have a couple friends who are huge into Final Fantasy Online. Like, they were up all day trying to get a house, and I was like, that's crazy. Granted, I've played World of Warcraft for like 13 years now, so I can't really say anything. But they were like, here, you can do this person. And I was like, I don't know what that is, and I have no clue how to even start that. It's a super cool armor design. I think it's a dragoon, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's got spikes all over it, and it looks really cool, and it would be something I'd want to make. But I just don't really know how, and since I don't know anything about the game, I don't feel comfortable totally doing it. Because I did that with Darius when I first made him. Knew nothing about the game, and had some pretty funny incidents where people would be like, you need to go over here, that's your faction, do this with League. And I just walk over thinking they weren't messing with me, and yeah, they were messing with me, and people would laugh, and it was just very, I don't know what's happening.
So has there been any characters that you've considered, because you mentioned the Dragoon? We'll go with Dragoon.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
That would be a character that you've looked at and think, I don't know how I would make the armor to the standard that you would see it in the game. Is there any character or even cosplay creature that you've looked at and just went, I don't know how I could even begin to approach that from an acting standpoint?
From the acting standpoint, there's a lot that I think I could do.
Mm-hmm.
But I get very self-conscious and like really awkward. So that's where it comes in, where it's like I think I could do it, but then no. One of them was the owl from Tokyo Ghoul. I had attempted to make him. It did not come out very well. And basically fell apart the moment I put it on. But I thought that I could act him out. And then after watching the show again, I was like, no, I can't really do this one. I want to, but I can't.
Okay, so let's go over the same question again, but instead of applying it to yourself, let's apply it to other people. So maybe a cosplay costume that you would recommend other people really, really think about before attempting.
My big thing is being comfortable. Mm-hmm. Like, whether it's something that you're going to be feeling you're comfortable wearing or feeling comfortable portraying that character. Like, if you're not comfortable, it's not going to be fun for you. I had that experience at DragonCon like 2 months ago. I made a Hades, did the makeup for Hades, did everything, saw pictures of it, wasn't comfortable wearing it, and was like, nope. Spent 2.5 hours on makeup to wear it for 5 minutes, wash it off, and put another costume on. Like, if you're not comfortable with it, that's going to be the biggest thing.
Okay. Is there any particular costume that somebody has come up to you and said, I'd like to do this, what do you think? And you just kind of went, no.
What do you mean? Like, no as in...
As in, don't do it. Like...
Not really. Like, if someone wants to try something, I'm all for it. If they want to try a different armor, they want to try a different character, go for it. Like, if they have any questions on techniques that I've done, they're more than welcome to ask me. And then, like, we can troubleshoot things back and forth. I can learn something new from them that, like, I've never thought of. Or I can help them. Either way. Like, I always am up for anyone trying anything new.
Awesome. Okay, so my next question for you is, there are 2 types of Comic-Cons that you can go to throughout the year. There is your big once-a-year ones. So, like, I believe at the time we're recording this, because we're recording this in October, you guys have just finished New York Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
Over in the States, and I think that was an extremely, from what I can tell, successful Comic Con. Always is, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I think at this point in time, it's still going on.
I think it actually ended yesterday.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, everyone must just be flooding their social medias with pictures from it and fooling us into thinking it's still going on. Okay, so you've got your big once-a-year ones, and you've got your smaller, more local ones that happen, I don't want to say every weekend for the States, but I'm under the impression that it's like almost every other weekend. You know, so they're very, very regular. They might happen 2, maybe 3 times a month.
Mm.
Maybe. Just depending on where you are in America, I suppose. Which out of those 2 particular events do you like going to the most? Do you like the big once-a-year ones, the smaller, more local ones, or do you like a blend of the 2?
I do a little bit of a blend of the 2. I typically end up going to the once-a-year ones more because that's where I have a lot more people that go to, and then plus that works a little bit better with work schedule to instead of trying to go to something every weekend. Because I live in Florida, there's literally a con every weekend somewhere in the state if I wanted to go to every weekend. But like my big con is Dragon Con. That's the one that, like, this was my 3rd year in a row going. Looking forward to next year already. That's my big one. But there are a couple small ones. There's a bar that I go to with some friends that they actually do cosplay nights like twice a month. So I try to go to those when I can.
Awesome. And you just kind of pointed me in my head in the direction of the person who pointed me to you. You know, so I now know how. I now know. And I know he's watching probably. So when you're going to these particular events, what is the one thing that you're most excited for? As well as the one thing that you either still kind of do on some level or used to find the most nerve-wracking? So let's start with the one thing you're most excited for.
I like seeing the costumes. Like, I like seeing the different people. Like, if it's the big cons, I like seeing people that I really don't get to see that often, who come from out of state, come from different countries. It's a great place where you can just meet people again. And then plus you get to see all the different costumes. You can learn different techniques from different people. It's just fun. Like, I like seeing all the people, mainly.
Okay. And the one thing that you used to or still kind of do on some level find kind of nerve-wracking about going to them?
That's probably going to be the people too. It's one of those like double-edged sword things where it's like I'm really excited to meet new people and see new people, but then I get really nerve-wracked because I'm like, wait, what if I'm not good enough to meet these people? What if people think that I don't look good? It all comes down to me freaking out, thinking that I don't look good enough to go into it and see people and have like new people see me for the first time.
And oddly enough, I think that's a big, massive thing between a lot of cosplayers. Like, they maybe don't think of it subconsciously, that would be the one thing that's like really, really nerve-wracking for them. But the more and more cosplayers I've spoken to, they've kind of identified that as something that is like sitting there in the back of their head, like, oh, is my cosplay good enough? Will I meet like somebody who will heckle the hell out of me, you know? And I just think, like, okay, you have to remember, everyone is human. You know, we all wake up in the morning, or depending on where you live in the world, the afternoon. You know, that is if you're dealing with jet lag. You may be, I don't know. But we all wake up in the morning and put our pants on the same way, which is one leg at a time. Cosplayers are exactly the same. We might not necessarily be wearing pants, but, you know, semantics. But yeah, like, I think you just need to be slightly a bit more comfortable in your own skin, and a lot of other cosplayers I've known have said you've got to be really confident in your cosplay, that you've done a good enough job. And there always is one fan of whatever character you're doing that will come up to you and be like, "Oh my god, you're so like the character." You know, it's amazing. And that's what you need to hold on to if you're a cosplayer, if you ask me. Just that one little glimmer of happiness.
It's that one moment of like recognition, especially if you're doing
Yeah.
something like mildly obscene, like not obscene, like obscure, that people are like, "Oh my god, I know you!" Like I did Mrs. Trunchbull or Miss Trunchbull, and it was mainly just a shits and giggles funny costume, and it was comfortable. But people got who it was, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is great!" Just from like the couple people who did notice it. So then it's like you can just run around and have fun, and then when the people do get it, it's like, "Yay! I've been noticed!"
I know exactly what you're talking about because I remember doing or going to it wasn't a cosplay event, but it was a fancy dress party, so kind of cosplay-ish. And I had 2 days to prepare for it. Like, it was literally dropped on me last moment. So I was like, okay, so I need to find a costume that I can wear. What do I have? I have black trousers, a black shirt, white silk material, a red snuggly. What can I make with that? And I ended up making this really low rent Edward Elric costume from Full Metal Alchemist.
Mhm.
And I went along to this. Nobody knew who I was, except for one person out of what only could have been maybe 300 people knew who I was, and I was like, one person who knew who I was. I love you. You know, thank you for knowing who the hell I am. And then not me having to explain who I am. So great. Oddly enough, I sent anybody who asked me like earlier, well, later on after that, I said to anyone who didn't know who I was like, "See that person over there? You know, that poor little person over there? Go ask them who I am. She'll tell you. No problem." That was good. And you do get a kind of similar vibe when you go to a con. There's probably only going to be a handful of people who know who you're cosplaying as. And it is always good when they say, "Oh my god, I love it, you're just like the character." And you're like, yeah.
Getting those freak out reactions are great.
I love those freak out reactions. And it's so great when you see a first time cosplayer getting that freak out reaction. Like, I remember also when I did Harley Quinn for the first time, and I got a freak out reaction from a kid. And it was so great. Like, I wasn't expecting it. I honestly thought when he screamed Harley, he was screaming for like a girl dressed as Harley. But having him coming running towards me and just hugging the living hell out of me was so amazing. And it does give you that kind of extra oomph that you need, especially when you're at that kind of, you've hit the wall at a con kind of phase. You're tired, you're hungry, you're annoyed, you know, because like you want to scratch your face and you know you can't. You've had the same itch for about 7 hours and you're like, you know. But when you have an interaction like that, it's just so great because it revitalizes you, like I said. So,
Yeah, I've never had a kid run up to me excited. I made one cry once.
oh
And I didn't mean to. Like, I was just standing there, and the kid got scared of me and started crying. And I was like, "It's okay, stop crying, I'm not scary." And the mom's dying laughing because, like, I'm trying to make this kid feel better, and, like, the more I'm trying to help, the kid's just screaming more. So I was
Don't
like,
you just-
"I'm gonna go over here now."
don't you just hate it when that happens?
It's only happened once. But I'm like, I don't want it to happen again. Unless I'm supposed to be, like, super scary.
What was the cosplay you were doing?
Darius.
Oh,
It was my first Darius.
right. Well, I've got an interesting one for you. So this is an interesting little story. I was away at a Halloween cosplay event, and I was doing a this was one of the other times in my cosplay journey that I didn't really plan ahead, but it worked out anyway in the end. I didn't know how I was going to edit my Harley costume to look like it was kind of Halloween style. And I even did then kind of was like, well, I don't want to work with liquid latex or anything like that to get cuts or boils or whatever, because I've never worked with that before. I don't know how, and quite frankly, it's not a good idea if you don't know how. So I was thinking, what can I do to make Harley look different? And The Nightmare Before Christmas actually popped on television, and I sat and watched it, and my favourite character from that entire movie is Sally. How she just like pulls herself together and stitches herself back up. So I was like, that's the answer. So I did that, and did a kind of patchwork Harley, and my friend did this zombie Joker, but he was using liquid latex.
Mm-hmm.
And we went along, had a great time, but we met this little kid there. The kid was fine with me, thought I was fascinatingly amusing, and wanted to touch all of my face, and I'm like, I can't let you touch my face, my makeup's still wet. But he took one look at my friend, started screaming the place down, and he's like freaking out that he's making this kid cry, and I'm trying to calm the kid down. The mother's just standing off to the side with her other child. The other child's laughing at his older sibling. And then the mother kind of looks at her child, sees that it's laughing, and starts laughing with it. Like, what are you laughing at? And doesn't see just a few feet behind her that one of her children's screaming their head off. And I'm like, brilliant parenting. Just great. So I can understand your kind of like stress at that point, like, no. Small child, please don't cry.
Yeah, it was intense because it was the first time I'd worn the costume, first con, first time being in the line to get a con badge, and was like, this kid's crying because he's staring at me. It was... it was an interesting time.
So when you've been going to these particular events, have you ever taken part in the cosplay competition?
I did once. I've done cosplay costume contests like at bars before. Mm-hmm. Recently after the first one, but bar competitions and an actual con cosplay competition are way different. So I've done one con cosplay competition, and that was that. I did not do it. Haven't done one again.
When you've been entered into these kind of competitions, have you won anything for them?
The con cosplay competition, no. The bar contests, yes.
Okay. Have you ever been asked to judge any of these types of competitions, be that at the bars or at a Comic-Con event?
I did get asked to come back to the bar called The Castle. They were having their cosplay night. I had won their previous cosplay competition, so they asked me to be one of the judges for it for their next one. That was back in July. So that was the first time I'd ever been a cosplay judge.
And what was that like?
It was really nerve-wracking, because I don't really like walking up to random people and being like, hey, I'm a judge, can I stare at your costume, or can you explain things to me? Because I thought they were going to come up and talk to me, because the first time where they did it, no one really said anything to me. They just kind of apparently looked at me. And then they were like, hey, come to this room. You're in the cosplay contest. And I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah, it was different than like an actual con cosplay judging. But it was...
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, it was a cool experience. Like, it was something that I'm like, I've done it. I can do it again.
Is that something that you would maybe want to do at a Comic-Con event? Would you want to try something like judging in that?
Yeah, that's one of my like kind of goals to try to have within like the next year or two, is to be possibly a cosplay guest somewhere or like a cosplay judge. I'm just trying to essentially build up my armor skills a little bit more to like finally make something that's like, whoa, and then has that whole like internet blow up thing that my friends have had.
Internet
so, yeah. Cosplay famous people.
Speaking of which, is there any particular, let's say, famous cosplayers that inspire you?
I would have to go with Kamui. Like, I've been following Kamui since I started. Her armor work is amazing. I love how she's constantly evolving with cosplay. So it's like she doesn't just stick with one thing. She still does the armor, which I love. Because there's not a whole lot of more well-known, like, cosplay famous people, especially, like, in the States, that do armor work. And Kamui's always coming out with something armor-related. Like, if there's a piece on it, something that's armor. Also, my other one would probably be Jessica Nigri. Like, she does a lot of armor work that I like a lot too, and I've taken her 5-foot rule thing completely to heart. Is that if I look good from 5 feet away, great. Don't come up close to me and to inspect where things are falling off. That is my favorite thing that she's ever said in like one of her cosplay videos, because I'm like, me! Don't come look at things, but take a picture from 5 feet, then we're good.
It's funny that you mentioned Jessica Nigri, because she's one person that is always mentioned by American cosplayers. And I have tried my hardest, people, to get in touch with Jessica Nigri. I am still trying to get in touch with her. She's not an easy person to track down, but if we do get her, if we do get her on this show, we do, then we're very, very thankful and lucky. If not, then I am very, very sorry, but obviously her schedule is too busy. So let's talk a little bit more about obviously the events that we go to, and I'm going to ask you, what are the 3 best things that somebody can do when they're going to a cosplay event, and what are the 3 worst things that they can do when going to an event? So let's start with the 3 good things. What are 3 of the best things that somebody can do when prepping to go to a cosplay event?
Okay. When you're prepping to go to a cosplay event, the best thing to do is make a list of everything you need so that you know you have it when you pack it. Because there's nothing worse than getting to the con and being like, crap, I left my contacts at home. My house is 500 miles away. I can't get them. I guess I'll wear these colors. So always make a list of stuff that you need. Plan out the space that you're going to need, especially with being an armor cosplayer. Space is something big. And basically make sure you have fun. Like, that's going to be my big third thing, is that like, if you're going, make sure you have fun. Like, plan to have fun, see people, because if you're not having fun, then there's not a whole lot of point in going.
And let's talk about 3 of the worst things that they can do now.
Space. It's probably going to be the number one thing. Um, Whether you're driving or flying to a con, making sure that your costume can fit is going to be the biggest thing. That is a very big negative thing and a positive thing. Like, for local cons, it's great having a massive suit of armor that you can walk in. But for a con that's, like, very far away, it basically limits you to driving unless you want to pay for shipping, which is nerve-wracking and expensive.
Yeah.
And then aside from having enough space, making sure you have a cosplay repair kit, because things break. And even if you have things planned out as like best as you can, where things have done test fits, everything's fine, things can break, fall off, get knocked off. So that's kind of a good and bad thing, is you always have a cosplay repair kit, which could just be a hot glue gun with tons of hot glue sticks. So that's what I do. And then the third thing is, if you can't see, make sure you have a handler or someone who can help lead you around, because standing in one spot all day can get really boring.
I know somebody that generally has a handler when they're doing events, but it's not for the same reason. Because seeing is not an issue with them. It's I have to be able to move.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've seen any of these particular pictures, but over here we get a few people doing Wookiees.
Wookiees, 501st people.
Well, these people are really, like, there's this one person that does a Wookiee over here, and he's trained himself to walk around on stilts for 5 to 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And while he has his staff, you know, he uses that to possibly balance and to lean on from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But you always see this one little person running ahead of him, like, saying, clear the way, get out of the way, Wookiee coming through. But I can always feel really, really bad for him, because some of the events that we've went to, that I went to that he's also been there, the doorways are not all that high. Yeah?
Yeah.
You know? There's this one event that I went to that he was at, and the doorway was really, really low down. And he was already something like, I'd guesstimate maybe 6'5". And then the stilts on top of that, and the stilts were like really pulled out, you know, so he was a good, 8 foot in height? Maybe more. I don't know, like possibly 8-10 foot, let's say. I don't know specifically, I never really got the chance to speak to him. But when I saw him, when I was waiting to get into the con, and then when I saw the doorway, I was like, okay, my mathematics is not brilliant, but I know the difference between, let's say, I don't know, 7-foot doorway and an 8-foot person, or 8 to 10 foot person. He's going to have to duck pretty much onto the heel of his foot. So when we were seeing gargoyles walk about like this person was going to have to bend down like this to just shimmy in if he wasn't taking his stilts off. Which couldn't have been easy to do given that he was in the Wookiee costume. And it looked like the costume was actually part of the stilts to me. So it was like, this is going to be a pain. I do not envy you.
Yeah, you got to learn the squat.
Yeah.
Like a squat walk that you have to do sometimes. Like my tallest costume was 7'4". Um, and then I actually met Extreme Costumes at Katsucon, and his Reinhardt is like 10 foot tall.
Wow.
So I was like, I don't know if I can fit in the elevator. He's like, I fit in the elevator. You can fit in the elevator. I was like, yes. So I got in the elevator, and then the roof on my floor was like, nope, you can't wear your helmet when you walk down this hallway. Because it was like, whoosh. And I was like, well, I either squat or I take my helmet off and squat a little bit. So I was like, helmet and little squat, and then walk to the room.
It's not easy. So I think that's another good thing to do is make sure you know the location that you're going to. Yeah? And plan accordingly. You know, because also know your climate. Because if you're going to a location that you know is going to be packed with people, and you're wearing a cosplay that is extreme, we'll use that phrase. Know the location, make sure you can get in and out very easily. B, know what kind of temperature you're dealing with, because if you're on something like stilts, you're going to have to shout down to somebody that you're dying of dehydration and would like some water thrown up to you or directly at your face. So yeah, like know the location, know the kind of climate of the part of the world that you're in, and I'd say for extreme cosplays like that, just be careful. You know, I can't imagine they're easy to walk around in. I'm not going to imagine they're easy to walk around in. You know.
Yeah, I've never done stilts, but doing those platform shoes, like heels I typically don't have an issue with, but those platform boots, no. Like, they're great for having the non-slanted effect of your feet, but you can't really move your ankle much. So I just typically, my foot just would roll a lot. And that's where I typically go, whoop, down I go. Because at that point you can't really catch yourself. You just kind of have to be like, I either fall on someone, fall on something, or I'm down.
So my next question for you is a bit of a categorized question, and that is age differences at Comic-Con and in cosplay. So I'm going to start this off with talking a little bit about Comic-Con and what I thought of age differences for just before I was due to go to my first one. When I first started doing this whole, or getting serious about going to Comic-Con, I thought, okay, I need to look up the kind of age differences you get within cosplay to see if I fit the bill. And while I did find family cosplays, it seemed like it was just like mum, dad, children on the stairs of their house, picture taken off the costume party. You know, and I was like, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. So I specifically started looking at group pictures from New York Comic Con, other locations, Dragon Con, various other things. And I noticed that there was a particular age trend starting to happen. I thought it looks as if it's early to mid-teens to your mid-30s. And I thought that must be the age group for Comic-Con. And I was like, that's fine. I fit into this age group. That is absolutely fine. I can very comfortably possibly go up to somebody at Comic-Con and say, comic books? Superhero comic books? Comic books. To somebody, and then have them reply the same way back. However, when I went to Comic-Con for the first time, I was so shocked when I first walked through the door. I seen young children running around in costumes. I seen mums, dads, aunts, uncles, big brothers, big sisters, the whole bunch. You know, I even seen grannies and granddads running around in costumes, and I was like, the hell? What was it like for you when you first kind of started cosplaying? Did you have a similar notion in your head of the type of age group you would see, or did you just go in like, okay, I am going to go in here and there's probably going to be 100 people running around in costume of all ages?
I didn't really think about the age thing. With the group of friends that I started cosplaying in, I'm the oldest. So that was the thing. They called me granddad. Because I was 24, so I'm 28 now. They were 20 and 19. And then the couple of the other dudes were like 23. But I was the oldest one, but I never really thought anything of it. I've seen age demographics going from little tiny toddlers up to elderly. One of my favorite people at DragonCon is the Olenna cosplayer. I do Game of Thrones every year, and I see her every year. And this year was great. Like, she got a BuzzFeed article. Like, people were all over interviewing her. She's awesome. She's a great sport. Like, it doesn't... Age never really bothered me. Like, I never thought about it at all. Just because I've seen it with no matter what age limit. Like, age is just a number. Like, if you're having fun with it, go for it.
It's funny that you should mention the Olenna cosplayer, because I've seen a lot of stuff on my social media feeds about her and how she had so much fun doing Lady Olenna, and there was one picture of her, and I don't know whether she's in a wheelchair or...
She is.
Okay. But you got to see her like being pushed along in her wheelchair, and she's obviously speaking to the person that's like pushing her around.
Mm-hmm.
And they've frozen it and put in a very Lady Olenna-like comment. I think it's the one that she has with one of the Dawnish girls, like, don't proceed to tell me what I know or need. You know, and I just thought that is such a great thing, because I know for a fact that the cosplayer will see that or something along those lines and get a good kick out of it if they're a fan of the character. There was other comments or other things on social media where it's the same cosplayer and people are trying to show the actress who played Lady Olenna this picture. And I know that's, again, something that the actors will get a really good kick out of, seeing people cosplaying as them. It's always just fun. Have you ever done any cosplays geared towards a specific age group? Like, have you done a cosplay that might have resonated with a younger audience, like the younger children, or have you done ones that, or do you... Ugh. I'll get it right eventually. Like I said, have you done any cosplays that are geared towards a younger age group, or have you done predominant cosplays that are geared towards your own age group?
Most of my cosplays have typically been for my age group, essentially. So anywhere from, like, really teens to however really old you want it to be. Because I've been doing a lot of Game of Thrones lately. Mm-hmm. So that can really be any age group. But I find it's a lot of 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings, and older who mainly watch Game of Thrones. I did do the Attack on Titan when that was really big. That was, I guess, a little bit younger age group. But most of the time it stayed around my age. Like, especially with Harry Potter, that's what my age group grew up with, so Umbridge is pretty much my age.
It is. When it comes to age groups within cosplay itself, have there been any, like, really younger cosplayers that you've seen and just went, whoa, you're kind of blowing me out of the water? Like, have any younger cosplayers really impressed you? Is what I'm kind of trying to get at there.
Yeah, a lot. There's a couple of people who are younger than me who their costumes, every time I see them, I'm just like, ugh, can I touch it? Because it's just gorgeous. One of my friends down in South Florida, he's another armor guy. He's done Halo, Iron Patriot, and it's just every time I see them, he's stepped his game up like another level. Where it's like something gone, like originally it was LEDs, now it's like animatronics where things will actually shift and move.
Wow.
He's got speakers in his Iron Patriot, so when he steps, it makes the clumping noise. I love seeing his work, and I think he's like 21, 22.
Do you know what's do you know what scares me? You're kind of like hitting at an older age range than I'm meaning. I have a friend who, well, she doesn't cosplay, but her daughter does, and her daughter is only, I think she's only going into her second year of school, so she's very, very young. But according to her mum, her daughter's always had an interest in cosplaying and making costumes and such likes, and she's allowing her to do this. You know, she's encouraging this kind of artistic behaviour, so to speak. And when this is what I found so funny is like she explained it to me like most mothers are telling their children not to run with scissors. I'm allowing my daughter to use scissors that are far beyond her years to cut up various things in order to make something else. And I'm like, that kind of scares me that your daughter is that into it at that early of an age. Because I remember when I was that young, my attention span was terrible. You know, so I don't know if that says more on the child or on the subject that we've managed to draw these younger ones in and keep their attention.
It's interesting to see like how it's going to go in the future, like with the advent of like 3D printers becoming like more readily available, and this people 3D printing things. Who knows where it's going to go? Like if they ever make those gel 3D printers, like that opens up a whole nother possibility of different areas. It's interesting because like you could see. Like, I have seen really little kids coming out with costumes where it's like, dang, that's really good. But, like, just with the age group that I'm around a lot, I don't really see a whole lot of little kids.
Mm-hmm.
Typically because I'm not at the con that early. Because I like to sleep sometimes after.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, I know about that one. My last question on age differences in cons or age groups in general. Now, not to insult you, so please don't take it that way. But I've noticed something with cosplayers over here. We in the UK very much have a Doctor Who individual, celebrity type person that will appear at any con. You know, it can be big, it can be small, and they will show up. I think it's because they like the money. I don't know. I'm going to get into trouble for saying that. But whenever there's somebody from Doctor Who or multiple peoples from Doctor Who at an event, I find that there are more and more people inclined to dress up as a character from the show. And while you get younger people coming along and saying, right, well, I'm going to do the second or fifth Doctor, and they're done up to look really quite old, which I think is a fantastic makeup job. You know, it's, and no doubt yourself, if you've seen that, you're like, wow, great makeup job. But I've seen more and more older generations going, well, I'm at the age of now, and I'm going to use this age of to my advantage. And I'm going to do an older generation type of thing that would like resonate for cosplayers, you know. Do you see that yourself in the States? Like, do you see people using their age to their advantage when it comes to cosplay?
Yeah. There's quite a few people that I know who they do use their age to their advantage. Like there's some characters like that I would love to cosplay, but due to the age difference, I don't. Even with the makeup and changing everything, I don't feel like it, for me personally, like if I would do it, it would grasp like the essence of the character until I hit that age. So when I see people who basically are the physical embodiment of the character stepping out from the screen or the book or the anime, and they are older, it's great. Like that's what kind of goes back to like the Olena. Like she's awesome. Like she's an elderly lady, but she's having fun and she's acting like Olena. It's literally kind of like the character stepped out from the show and the books and is just laughing and goofing off with us and like making fun of all the Cerseis at Dragon Con. Like it's great.
She kind of reminds me of an article that I read a while back of this woman who, I can't remember whether she was 90 or like 90 plus. Somebody had asked her, you know, what do you want to do for your birthday? And she said, I want to go to Comic-Con. You know, and I don't know about you, but I think it's very rude to deny somebody their birthday request. You know? So they said, okay, we'll take you to Comic-Con. And she got to go to Comic-Con. And somewhere between going to Comic-Con and telling somebody the request, she's like, well, I don't just want to go to Comic-Con. I want to cosplay while I'm there. Again, not one to deny this person. They asked her, right, what do you want to cosplay as? And she said, I want to go as my favourite comic book character. And there's a picture of her at the con. She has her walking frame. And she's walking around as Wonder Woman. And I just think that is so fantastic that this lady has not only convinced people to take her to Comic-Con, but she's said, right, I'm going to go as my favourite comic book character, a character that I've literally been around since it began, and I've followed it. But she did it, like, she didn't wear a wig or anything like that. She didn't attempt to make herself look younger. It was like a Wonder Woman with grey hair, long beautiful hair, and the outfit, and she's happy, she's going around the con, and I'm like, that is a fantastic thing to do. It speaks volume for this individual, and it also speaks volume for, and I'm not getting paid for saying this, but it speaks volume for the people at DC Comics. They're kind of having the opportunity to say, hey, we made this character, or we have people who made this character, and obviously this woman's that big of a fan that she's decided to do this, and more power to her, you know. And it just goes to show, you know, age is really just a number when it comes to cosplay.
It is. It's like, that's why I think it comes down to fun. If you're having fun and you're enjoying it, then that's all that matters.
Definitely, definitely. So my next question for you is similar to the age category. We're now moving over to the category of props.
Okay.
Okay, so for me, props fall into 2 categories initially, and then 3 subcategories. So the 2 categories initially are, it goes to a Comic-Con event with me, or it goes to a photo shoot with me. Then the 3 subcategories are, holy crap, this prop is so large it's going to break my back in 2. This prop is medium size. It will not break my back in 2, but will start to annoy me if I have to carry it around for more than 7 hours. And lastly, this prop is so nice and small, it fits in my pocket or in my bag and I'm good to go. Now, obviously this is the same thing that every cosplayer says to me, but it depends on the costume I'm doing. So, depending on the costume, which out of the three that I mentioned, the big, the medium, the small, are you most liable to take with you to a Comic-Con event?
Bigger medium, just because of the costumes I tend to make. My props tend to be relatively large.
Okay. And when you're doing a photo shoot, I'm assuming it's like the same, or do you just say the hell with it and take all three?
Basically the same. It would kind of depend on like what I'm doing or like where I'm going. I haven't really done many like photo shoots outside of the con, so typically I have it with me.
Okay. On average, because you mentioned you make your props, well actually that is an interesting part. Prop making, do you buy them in ready-made, buy them in and customize them, or make them from scratch? And I'm going to assume that you do a little bit of all three.
Yeah, I do a little bit of all three. For Umbridge, all of her stuff was bought. And then for the Mountain, it was a mix of having it and then making it. Because for a while I used an actual broadsword, but that thing is heavy after a while, and
I'm imagining I'm imagining after what happened over in America, security will be like, "You're not walking in with that broadsword."
Depends on the con. It's really interesting. Security levels change a lot. It's kind of crappy to say, but it all depends on who you are for whether or not, and who you know, for whether or not you can get by with something. A lot of the times with my broadsword, they would essentially zip tie it because it's got a little knob on it, so you could like clip it onto something. Mm-hmm. So they would zip tie the actual. I forgot the piece, but they zip tie that to it, so I can't draw it. So it's just basically just a sword in a sheath, but it is heavy. So that's with that, and then I have made most of my props from like scratch.
Awesome. Now, let's talk about the creation process of the props. On average, how long does it take you to make a prop?
It kind of depends. With my most recent one would be the Mountain Sword. That one took me probably like 12 hours in total. And that was a lot of just sanding, shaping it and sanding it, and then figuring out how to do the handle bit and then changing it just to have to remake it. But the more you do it, the faster things go. Like, I have a friend who actually lives across the street from me who he does tons of like prop commissions, mm-hmm. and he can bust out like a sword in literally like 4 to 5 hours. Like, wow. From, oh, that's a piece of wood to, oh, it's a sword. Because he just goes so fast because he does them all the time. I'm like, I'm not that fast.
I'd like to be, but I'm not.
Yeah, it's like, I want to do it that fast, but I can't. Not yet. It all depends on that. I've made some props where it's like, hey, done in 20 minutes, yay! Others ones are still sitting in my room because I'm like, yeah, I don't know how to finish this.
On the subject of that, has there been any props that just annoyed the living hell out of you?
Yeah, Reinhardt's hammer. I started making it and then realized this is too big. It's not going to work. Tried scaling it down. Still didn't work, so I ended up scrapping it, not going to the con with the hammer. Um, I had which one? I had one prop that like literally just kept getting in my way, so I literally just grabbed it and threw it in the trash can at the con. I was like, I can't deal with this. I just threw it in the trash can. And my friend was like, but that's your prop. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't walk around with this. Like, I'm done.
I've had a prop that I've wanted to do that with, but I wasn't at a con, so I couldn't throw it in the trash. So my most recent con, I was like, okay, I'm going to revamp my Suicide Squad look for Harley. And I was thinking, okay, I have this hammer that I made initially, but I don't want to drag that around because that's my classic Harley look prop. I need something new, so I got these two toy guns, which I painted black and red, because I was still pulling aspects of the classic look in. And then the thing happened, and security kind of became a little bit tight at cons. I still had my guns with me, but they were in my suitcase for the entire day. I was like, yay, I took so much time making these. And yeah, they were going in my case. But I did have another prop that I made from scratch, which drove me insane, which was my Jack-in-the-Box. Made completely out of cardboard. There's no part of it that could physically harm anyone. But when I was making this, I literally went mad at an inanimate object. Like, I was trying to paint it, and the paint wasn't initially sticking to certain parts of it. And I'm like, why is the paint not sticking? Please, paint, just stick. We'll be friends. And then when that happened, I was happy. And then I started to put it's kind of like the rim on the actual corners of the box, and that wouldn't stick because it was like trying to stick cardboard to dry paint. It just wouldn't go. So I had to like use super glue and double-sided tape to get it to stick. And I was like, yeah, please just stick. And then the creation of the head itself was so annoying, but it worked out amazingly once we figured out how to do it. I had to call in help at that point when I got to the head. I was like, I don't know how to do this. Which is something that you should never be afraid to do, guys. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help. There are possibly people with skill sets around that you don't know that they have until you ask. So it's always
asking for help can be really big.
Definitely.
It can make or break a costume sometimes.
Definitely. Oddly enough, the said prop that I'm talking about was really handy during the day of the con because I had all my business cards in it that I was just pulling out. Like, hey, have I given you a business card? No? Okay, 2 seconds till I open my box. Here's a business card. Take it. Plus, a lot of people really loved it and they're like, oh, can I touch it? And I'm like, are you sure? You sure you really want to do this? Yeah, absolutely sure you want to touch this prop that's driven me mad? But yeah, it can be quite interesting because like you get to that point when you've been working and working and working on a prop that you do start to talk to it like it's going to physically answer you back. Have you ever gotten to the stage where you're talking to a prop, maybe one that you've been working on, not necessarily in the comfort of your own home, and people have just looked at you like it's just an inanimate prop object that's not going to speak back to you?
Not so much talking to it, but cursing at it. Yes.
Been there.
I definitely have the come on, like, work, you piece of shit. Like, while I'm trying to like get through a door or like trying to fit it in something. Yeah, I've definitely had that moment.
Yep. We're normal cosplayers. Normal. Okay, so my next question for you is moving away from the nightmare that is props. And moving into calmer pastures now. What opportunities has cosplay opened up for you away from being in a costume?
I've gotten to meet a lot more people that I probably never would have gotten to meet. Have become close with a lot of these people. It's gotten me to come out of my shell a bit more. I'm actually typically a pretty shy person where it's like I don't talk until I know people. Like, I'll be that person at work who gets a new job and doesn't speak for like a month and a half to 2 months to anyone in the office. And then once I start talking, it's because I know everybody already. Like, I know their stories, I know background about them, like I know their, like what their names are, and that's just because I listen to everything. Cosplay's gotten me to open up to where I can actually talk to people and basically be like, hey, how are you? I'm blah, blah, blah. And go from there. I've gotten to meet different celebrities, different actors, and like actually got to like talk to them, aside from, hi, you're blah, 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 bye. Like, we've actually like hung out, talked, and that's things that like I never really would have done if I hadn't started cosplaying.
Can you name drop at least one celebrity that you've had the opportunity to hang out with?
I'll do Linda, Miss Valentine. She's the voice of Sailor Moon, like the original Sailor Moon.
Mm-hmm.
So MegaCon this year, me and a bunch of my friends are the ones who decided to do the group. I kind of was like, I'm joining you. They all did an all-male Sailor Scout group, but they didn't try to femme it up. They didn't try to look pretty. They literally threw on sailor dresses and wigs and went for it. And I decided...
Beards and all.
Yeah, beards and all. I did a drag queen tuxedo mask. So that was like my first drag costume where I actually had to be like, hey, things have to get tucked in this, otherwise it's not going to look right. I was like 7'4" in that with like the top hat walking around. The voice actors actually pulled us up onto stage, onto their panel, and like gave us hugs and took pictures with us. But then I found out she was at the Sailor Moon voice actor was at Dragon Con again. And I'm not like a huge Sailor Moon fan. Like, I never really watched the show as a kid. Because it was, oh my god, girls, I'll watch Dragon Ball Z instead. It's not that it was a bad show. Like, I like it. I just didn't watch it when I was younger. I've watched it when I was older, but when I was little, I didn't watch it. But she remembered who we were. So I went with one of my friends who was the Sailor Moon of our group, and we're like, hey, I wanted to say hi and see if you remember us. And she's like, oh my god, it's you guys! And we got to talk, and we hung out, and then I told her how I was doing Miss Trunchbull. And she's like, you better come see me when you're Miss Trunchbull, otherwise I'm going to get really mad at you. So I showed up as Trunchbull, and she, like, stops talking to people and, like, runs up and gives us a hug and starts taking pictures with us. And she took a picture where I'm, like, I have a riding crop for Trunchbull. Mm-hmm. So I'm literally, like, spanking her with the riding crop. And she's like, this is my favorite picture I took all weekend. And I was like, yes! It's really fun when you meet the celebrities, because then switching back to Game of Thrones, a lot of people watch Game of Thrones, and it puts the whole celebrities are people too into like a whole character and context. Yeah. So seeing the celebrities freak out over your Game of Thrones costume or over your costume is like, I'm kind of freaking out over you, but you're freaking out over me, so this is awesome.
Yeah. Believe it or not, the girl that we mentioned, like one of the Dawnish girls earlier from Game of Thrones, I met Obara. And at the time, I was dressed as a gender bent Poison Ivy. And it was the first time that I did it, and I don't really, like, for my myself personally, I think I could have done better. But I'll get into that later on. But I didn't know she was like on Game of Thrones at the time. You know, like I knew of her, and I knew she'd had like 2 or 3 scenes. This is when she first was in Game of Thrones. She'd had 2 or 3 scenes, and I barely recognised who she was on the show. And it turned out I knew her from a different show called The Almighty Johnsons, which was one of my favourite shows when it was on TV. It was an Australian-made show about Norse gods, basically.
I remember seeing the trailer for it, and I've never watched it.
I remember going up to her and saying, "Oh my god, I loved you on The Almighty Johnsons. I thought you were hilarious. You were fantastic. What was it like playing her?" And all she could do was like look at my costume and go, "How did you make that costume?" And I'm like, with a lot of issues. Because obviously I'm working with fake ivy and various other plant life that I had to try and work into like fabric, you know, and I'm like, how do I do this? And I remember after I'd like had a conversation with her, I was trying to like fix the ivy that was wrapped around my arms, and in order to do that I had to extend my arm out after I'd like fixed it. So I took myself to the side because somebody else wanted her autograph, and I'm fixing the ivy, and I stretched back like that and almost hit the person behind me in the face, which either was her friend or her fiance. I'm assuming fiance because I seen them kind of like hugging later on, but I almost smacked this poor guy in the face. And when I'm like apologizing, like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Did I hit you?" And he's like, no. All she could do was sit and laugh, and I'm like, that is just, I don't know. Honestly, do not know. But they seen me later on in the day when I was queuing. Now this queue must have been hilarious. Like, you had the Ministry of Magic in front of me. Yeah, from Harry Potter. And the Predator behind me. Yeah. Now, the Ministry of Magic were all kind of like talking to them amongst each other, you know, so I couldn't really get a good conversation out of them. But I ended up talking to the guy who was dressed as the Predator behind me. So, you can imagine the sight. You see the Ministry of Magic, male poison ivy, Predator. Male poison ivy and Predator having a conversation. Interesting thing to walk past on, I honestly think. And I think that's why I seen her smiling again. She must have remembered me almost hitting her fiancé in the face. But yeah, it happens. Fun at cons, and celebrities are people too. So, okay, so my next question, and my almost last question, we're going back to the subject of cosplay, which is, who are your next 3 cosplays going to be? So the next cosplay you're going to do at your next event, a cosplay you're in the middle of making that will appear either later what's left of this year, or early next year, and a cosplay that you're thinking about for next year. So let's start with who you're going to be at your next con.
So at my next con, I'm gonna do Emperor Zarkon from Voltron. And there's a big Voltron community in Florida and in the States, because we actually have Holiday Matsuri, which is like the end of the year final Christmas con. Like, it's a Christmas type theme, but you can really go as anything. So I'll probably Zarkon with like a Christmas hat. Then I haven't actually started making him yet, but I know I have to make him soon. But he's my next, like, 100% planned, like, I'm doing him. Other costume that I'm planning on making for that con is probably going to be Bato from Ghost in the Shell, because I have a friend who wants to do that, and she's going to do Major. And then thinking about for next year, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Hairspray with John Travolta. I want to do Edna Turnblad, so his
Awesome.
character, because I think that'll be really fun. So she's one of my like top ones for next year.
There is one that I'm going to suggest to you when we go off air that you do, and it was after I seen your Tunbridge cosplay, and I seen it and I was like, oh, this guy would be so great for this other character that I know that is really famous over in the UK. I'm not sure how famous they are over in the States, but really famous in the UK. So my last question for you is, what advice would you give to somebody who is a new cosplayer but doesn't know exactly where to start?
Um, Basically, if you're new and you don't know where to start, find out what you're looking for. Like, if you're wanting to do sewing or if you're wanting to do armor, YouTube is great. There's tons of tutorials on YouTube. Things have come out now where there's like the different Patreons, there's different websites where you can find patterns. Etsy even sells patterns now. Um, Experiment with materials, try things out. Take a sewing class, or if you have friends who do sew, sit in, watch them sew, have them guide you. Don't be afraid to mess up, because Lord knows my sewing is horrendous, but I try. Um, if you want to try armor work, try it out. There's so many different types of material now that you can do with armor, whether it's EVA foam, Centro, Warbler, Wonderflex. Um, there's another one, and I'm blanking on its name. Um, they're all fun to try. I typically use foam because it's cheaper. Um, but it's all trying something out. I will say if you do use armor and foam, make sure you get a respirator because taking care of your lungs are important. Don't do what I did. Um, but try things out. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to try new media, new textiles, anything like that, because you never know what could happen. It could turn out to be a wonderful success, or a blob that sits on your table to be like, don't do that again.
Yeah.
It all depends on what you want to do. Just don't be afraid to try and have fun.
So, with that being said, guys, I'm going to say if you have any further questions for myself or for
It's Voltarius 89.
thank you. Please do put them down in the comments section. I think it's just down there. Do you see it, Voltarius? It's linked down there.
Yeah.
Also, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up because we love our thumbs on the channel. Also, guys, there are many, many more cosplayers that I've interviewed up to this point, so please do subscribe. And you can catch the rest of the cosplay people that I've interviewed, as well as other videos that are happening on my channel. Our gaming sessions, our new show that will be coming very, very soon, and I'm very, very excited about that. Can't really get into details for that right now. So keep an eye out for that in the future. But if for some strange reason all of this stuff is just not enough and you want more of me, I don't know why people would want more of me, do you? No idea. You can catch me on this lovely website, iGameOnline.net, where we do have a Facebook and a YouTube page. This website is a free sign up, guys. It will cost you nothing and we ask nothing in return. You can sign up to some of our in-game communities like the Arkham Angels and Devils for DC Universe Online and other superhero related games. Or you can visit the Eternal Dawn page and see what's happening in Final Fantasy XIV. Or, if you want, you can join the cosplay page and see what the following cosplayers that are also featured on this lovely website in the UK. You can catch up with what Kobe Kicks, Little Rascal, and Alphabet are also up to. But if none of that fits you and you want to know what Voltaro has been up to, he is going to give us some lovely links that will be found in the description of this video, just in case you don't necessarily want to put a question aimed at him down in the comments section. So where can we get a hold of you if we have any further questions?
You can always look at my Instagram or Facebook. They're both going to be at Voltarius89, and that's VOLTARIUS 89.
Okay. And don't worry if you missed those, guys. The links to those will be in the description of this video, so do go along, support him in all of his endeavours, and even tell him, "Hi, Jai sent me."
Yay.
And then he can come to me and say, "See you, Jai, I really hate you." But in the meantime, I've been Jai452. Voltaro has been Voltaro, and this has been Inside Cosplay. So we'll be back with another interview really soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.